Hey, hey, hey. All right, my babies. Trying to keep the momentum. Today's video is I'm only human. It's a serious statement. We are a being beyond the real world. I hear that. I heard that a lot in my life. Back when I used to interact with people on a daily. The Here's the statement, just to be clear. I'm only human. Human is a serious statement. We are a being beyond the real world. And once upon a time, I did a video. It's different. Did I? I remember. I know that part of my conversation, especially when it comes to such a topic, who are we? What am I? And all that shit. I created a very specific separation between a human and a human being. In my humble opinion, a human is the evolution of the human being. And the best way I could describe it is the fact that like human beings, okay, so the animals, what separates us from the rest of the world or from the rest of the creatures on this planet? Personally, I think it's our awareness of our own consciousness. Or, yes, awareness of our own consciousness, not conscious awareness, awareness of our own consciousness. Because effectively, our ability to reflect could be very much designed by us, right? So I'm not denying consciousness for other beings. In fact, I'm saying this in a way that shows the difference between consciousness or not. The best example you can say is the difference between a wild dog and I would say like a stray dog versus a house dog. You can see YouTube videos of house dogs having like multiple like these pedals, and they know exactly what they're telling you when they're telling you. They know what you're going to respond to. They don't necessarily understand how to spell that shit or how to pronounce it, but they can look at you and be like, I'm hungry, leave me alone, like all that cute stuff. Whilst a wild dog is not really familiar, so his awareness is primitive, is wild, is raw, is uncouth. Can I use that word uncouth in this moment? What does uncouth mean? Uncouth. Uncouth. Crude, awkward, and or clumsy, foreign and unfamiliar. Yes, I can fucking use it. So whilst like house domesticated dogs kind of have like you can see them interacting with their owners. I have fucking cats. Like one cat interacts with me, the other one kind of has her own like vibe and mood, and she's picky when she wants to actually like hang out with me and like snuggle and all that good shit. And when I had a dog, she was perfection. Because for me, like it was funny because I would see her trying to interact uh, with other animals, and I would see it's a behavioral thing because when it comes to other dogs that were basically stray in our area, uh, I want to say class, but you could tell the difference from a stray dog and a dog that's basically in house, that has basically a house or has like its own specific environment. And she's smart enough to like understand me, but they're definitely smarter and the whole like how to survive and how to get food and how to kind of like support the wherever they are as a community in order for them to kind of like sustain their existence. I love it. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because like I'm trying to just differentiate between our image of a wild beast and the awareness of a tame one the awareness of a beast that basically works with us. And to 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 push the point, one thing that always kind of like lingers with me is if you train a dog, then especially I don't know if it's especially, but like If you train a mother dog and then her children basically grow up watching her responding to you, then you don't have to train them on the same stuff that you trained her. You can actually train them on new stuff, as effectively exploring their vocabulary and expanding it as you generationally. So it shows like there's a consciousness there that's kind of gaining awareness within the species itself. I'm focusing on dogs, but like animals, bears, for example, are known to just sit and like look and enjoy the sunset and shit like this. Horses are known to be very smart. Dolphins are very smart. Whales and shit like this. Well, mammals in general, maybe even like lizards and shit seem to respond certain kind of way. And birds are my favorite because like fuck man, they have personality, right? You don't imagine that when you see them in the wild, but the more you kind of like if you're around them, then you kind of like become aware of their consciousness and they become aware of your consciousness, and that basically creates that relationship in between. I'm a big fan of the dynamic of like interaction because I think the life is feedback and survival is a test because ultimately you either kind of like thrive or survive or die. So going back to where I started, I'm only human is a serious statement. And it's because the difference between a human and human being is a human being is the primitive form, is our primitive form. It's literally just, if I were to imagine Neanderthals, basically, these are human beings. And I would argue that human beings have evolved as human beings to the standards of society, but being human has always been like that kind of like that step above. Uh, I don't know if it's individuality that takes it out of us, that brings it, that allows us to realize our human nature, t- allows us to realize our human nature and become aware of our own consciousness towards ourselves. Because effectively, like, the more time you spend with yourself, the more you process whatever thoughts you have, whatever nature you have, whatever things you like and you don't like, and you start gaining that awareness. And that's where your intention towards things start becoming a lot more prevalent. And that allows you to explore your own consciousness and the consciousness of the world, whatever we're connected to, the universal consciousness. That allows you to kind of like, what's the word? Uh, not surpass, not surpass, and not evolve. Uh, come out of yourself? Fuck, man. It's like one of those profound words. Elevate? Let's use elevate. Elevate beyond what is basically just neutrally observed and accepted. And the term "I'm only human," I don't think it's precise because I don't think people are. I don't think an individual is a human. I think he becomes or she becomes a human. The human as the nature of human is different than the nature of the human being. The human being is raw, emotional, instinctive, primitive, whilst the human is conscious, aware, and reasonable. So I think that there is that big differentiation. And maybe one of the biggest steps that we can take is being able to differentiate when we're acting primitively. I think that's the case, right? And when we're actually intentionally regarding our thoughts and what's happening around us. It's funny because I think uh, either confidence in your own self or a lacking in respect on the other side kind of allows us to like not necessarily have the interactions reach us, which allow us to process what's going on through us instead of allow it to kind of like impose itself directly on us. Why did I go there? Confidence, becoming a human being means whatever's happening in your own head is not affected by the outside world unless you're allowing it to affect. So effectively, anything that's coming from the outside goes through you first, and then is expressed based on how you would want it to be expressed, or just thrown on the side depending on whatever the fuck you want to do. Whilst a human being will just react. So a human would respond, a human being would react. It's the basic way of explaining this. So I would say next time you hear somebody say I'm only human, that should be a tell sign that they're still not fully. I don't know. For me, you can't trust that person, and not necessarily because they're wicked or anything like this. Because when somebody says I'm only human, that means they don't really understand how that mistake came to be, or how whatever it is that they're reasoning they're only human. Because you're not only human. All of you is has the potential of a human. But I'm only a human being makes more sense because at the very least there's somewhere to go from there. But when you say I'm only human, you limited the one thing that has access to the entirety of the universe, which is the awareness of the conscious, which is the conscious awareness of everything. And so I'm only human is a fucking serious statement, man. We are beyond this real world. And I'm only a human being makes more sense because that actually gives you the grounding of the real world. But when you say I'm only human, you're literally putting the limits of yourself on whatever the reality is in your head, which I think is a shame, or at the very least, like a bit sad. But hey, it's a fucking video. Love you guys.